Moonlit Restaurant. AI novel. We made full use of OpenAI Canva Clipchamp to create the video. We would be very happy if you could watch it to the end. Moonlit Restaurant. That night, as the moonlight softly enveloped the city, I went for a casual stroll. I was drawn to a small restaurant that I would normally have passed by, but for some reason it caught my attention that night, and I pushed open the door as if drawn in. Upon entering, the room was bathed in the soft light of the chandelier, and the walls were decorated with old paintings. The atmosphere was reminiscent of an old European castle. In the quiet, empty restaurant, I was led to a seat in the back and was looking at the menu when I suddenly felt a gaze. I looked up and saw a strange man standing across from me. He said, "I am sorry to frighten you, but if you are alone, may I join you for a moment?" He smiled, his eyes shining softly like the moon. He was probably a little older than me. He had lightly pigmented hair and deep-colored eyes. As soon as his eyes met mine, I felt like I was meeting someone from my past. For some reason, I couldn't bring myself to say no, so I nodded. He recommended a red wine that was moderately sweet with a hint of bitterness. As we talked, I felt a strange sense of familiarity with him. I feel as if I am connected to this person through some kind of invisible link. I never thought I would see you on a night like this. He smiled through his glass and gave me a look that made my heart flutter. The gesture was strangely nostalgic and made my heart ache. I had no idea that just a few hours earlier we had been out for a walk and that this fleeting encounter had made my heart soar. With each moment of silence, the time between us seems to slow down even more. The aroma of wine mixes with the scent of sweet candles as he gently touches my hand. At that moment, my heart skips a beat and I think I know why I was drawn to this place. "I'm a little late meeting you." His words sounded like a sad melody and I wanted to ask him why, but I could not say anything. It just felt like we were resonating with something other than words. His face came close to mine, and when our lips almost touched, I felt as if time had stopped. Of course, I surrendered to him and locked lips with him. I could feel his warmth and it filled my heart. It may have been just for tonight, but it was such a sweet and sad moment that I wished it could last forever. The next morning, I tried to visit the restaurant again, but neither he, the restaurant, nor anything else existed there. It was as if it had been an illusion. However, the feeling of him on my lips and his sweet scent remained. Was it a dream or? I kept my encounter with him in my heart, wondering if the night was real or a dream. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I feel like I will meet him again, and I smile softly. Weeks have passed since that day, and I am still haunted by the memory of that night. His gaze and words would return to me at any moment, and each time my heart would flutter. I wanted to believe that it was not an illusion, and as this desire grew, I unconsciously began to look for his image in the city. One day at dusk, while walking along the same street, I heard a familiar piano melody. As if guided by the sound, my feet moved naturally toward it, and I found myself in front of a bar that was open only once a night. Hesitantly, I pushed open the door and walked in to find a familiar silhouette standing there, leaning against the piano. He turned around and his eyes met mine. His eyes widened in surprise, but then he immediately smiled and quietly approached me. "I never thought I'd see you again." His voice sounded sweet. I gasped and asked him the same question. "You? What was that night all about?" He chuckled a little and chose his words carefully. "I thought that night might have been a dream as well. But now that you are here, maybe it was fate." I felt my heart heat up in my chest at his words. It was as if I was lost in the continuation of a long dream, and I was no longer sure if it was real or not. "Will you spend this night with me one more time?" he said, holding out his hand to me. I quietly took his hand and we sat down in a corner of the bar. Quiet time passed again and we just felt happy to be together. We didn't say much to each other, but I felt like we were connected. He whispered softly in my ear, Tonight may be our last night together, he whispered softly in my ear. But meeting you is my treasure. His words seemed so fleeting that I squeezed his hand tightly. Will we meet again someday? He smiled and gently pressed his lips to my forehead. I promise you, one day I will. In the morning I was alone and replayed last night's events as if they had happened in a dream. After he left, I noticed something in his pocket. I took it out and found a small key to the restaurant. Believing that I would see him again, I clutched the key he had left behind and engraved the memory of that night in my heart. As I held the key, I began to feel that my meeting with it was not a mere coincidence, but that there was some important meaning in the past. Guided by this feeling, I decided to go on a journey to explore my past. Conclusion. How was it? If you like it, please like and please subscribe to our channel.